Yeah, so my name is Ronnie Stevens. I'm from just outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been in the oil and gas industry for the last 20 years. I'm married. I have two kids. Both of them, one graduated from OU, one is a junior at OU. And I also teach at the University of Tulsa. I love to travel, and I'm Native American. A lot of people wouldn't necessarily guess that by looking at me. And so that's kind of what I use as part of my TED Talk basis, since I am Native American and I'm part of the Paw tribe and the Cherokee Nation. My TED Talk was about the power of identity. So I talk about my story around how I came to understand and dive into really understanding my Native American heritage, because it's just something they don't teach today in school. And even when I was going to school, they didn't teach a lot about it. And so I had gone to different powwows and different events. I would just say I had never spent the time to really dive deep into my Native American heritage. And so that's what my TED Talk was about. And I talk about my dad and how our relationship focused on trying to understand our identity. He came down with cancer right before COVID and ended up passing away. And so that's a big part of my TED Talk. And then, so I focus on certainly Native Americans, Native American history, understanding what it was like growing up being Native American, just some data and figures. But what I really focus on and end my talk on is really, even if you're not Native American, is understanding your story and your origin, because I think there's power in that. And as you understand where you come from, it helps you ask better questions. And when you ask better questions, you can try to hopefully better solve problems. And so then I talk about some for Native Americans, what are some things we can do within. I end my call to action is really around anybody. My ask is that you understand where you come from. And I end kind of my talk with saying, what is the one thing about your family that you don't want anybody to ever forget? And so how do you capture that? And so then I give some ideas for that and why that's powerful. I would say I'd given this talk internally several times. And so what was, I'll call a 45-minute kind of just the history of my family and a little bit about Native Americans in Oklahoma, really around diversity and inclusion moments. And a lot of people said, hey, we love your talk and we just didn't know a lot of these facts. So, you should think about doing a TED Talk. So I had come across one of Taylor's videos, actually on Instagram, listened to 2 or 3 of his presentations, and certainly was excited. And I just decided, hey, I want to do a TED Talk. And so I signed up for the program. So my experience with Thought Leader has been amazing. So I actually applied initially for 4 TED Talks. And the day I got a rejection letter from Savannah, Georgia, the very first place that I had applied for was Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was kind of blew my mind that they were having a TED Talk. So the University of Tulsa partners with Stanford. And so through that partnership, they helped them create a TEDx program. And so the same day I got my first rejection letter, I got a call from the University of Tulsa saying, hey, we'd like to interview you. So I went, interviewed, they selected me to speak. And I would just say, I went from having, someone, I'll say it this way. Someone said, you take 2 paragraphs, you turn those 2 paragraphs into 2 sentences, you turn those 2 sentences into 1 sentence. I think that for me, that's my experience. And what I really didn't have is, I'll call it the structure, the storytelling structure, I'll call it the hero's journey structure, and kind of the Thought Leader program structure. And so I think the biggest things that I did was trying to create an introduction that drew people's attention, but was also a little bit funny and kind of was that, got them excited about listening to what you were going to talk about. And then the down story, which was kind of easy for me with my dad, and then talking about my journey. And for me, I think the other big feedback that I took away was I had a lot of facts, these are things that happen, and taking that and making it a story. So how do you bring that into a storytelling component versus just here are things that happen sequentially, either to me or to my ancestors, and then turning that into a story. And then I got a chance to work with 4 or 5 of your different coaches, which is amazing when you go to talk practice. So for those who haven't been to the program, you go through a series of classes to kind of help you write your talk, help you perfect your talk, help you do your introduction. But then I think where you really learn is going through talk practice. So that's practice that they have. And the cool thing is you have a coach, but you also have other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through. And so everybody gives you feedback. And I just think that's so powerful because you have people with just so many different perspectives. So the coaches obviously have, hey, here's maybe some very specific things, but you have people from across the world who have different viewpoints. And that's what I found really valuable, because sometimes you're like, does this resonate? And the coach is really maybe focused on, here's some technical things, I liked it. And then what you'll have from the other participants was, hey, that was really good, that really resonated. And I had a number of people through Circle, which is kind of the online platform that you use, or just through email reach out several times, just say, hey, we love your topic, we'd love to hear more about it. So that's what I'd say, just my biggest things that I got from it, and really perfecting my call to action. And I think for me, most of my talk focused on my Native American heritage. And then what I wanted to do, and the feedback I got on the call to action, was really make that broader. So anybody can hear the story and say, yeah, we understand someone who might struggle, and identify, right, whether you're Native American or another ethnic group. And so what I really wanted to do on my call to action is that even no matter where your background is understanding where you come from, your history, your land, your ancestors is powerful. And by doing that, it potentially could be life-changing. And for me, that's been the case. It's been life-changing to understand where I've come from and to be able to share this story. So I think those are all just things that I got from Thought Leader. And I would just say that I would have never been able to not just deliver, but I would say deliver confidently the TED Talk that I did. So what I started out with was 2,000 degrees different than what I ended up with. If you're on the fence and thinking about joining the program, call and talk to somebody. So that's why I say step one, because I think the coaches or even the people you talk to, the first couple of times I talked to people, I think I did a call initially. I said, let me think about this. I think then I watched another one of Taylor's videos, took some notes. From those notes, watched some TED Talks. But I think just for someone on the fence, I would just say, if you really want to deliver a TED Talk, I think not just everything that I've talked about around coaching, around getting ideas, about feedback from others, and the community. And the community is very, very uplifting. You also get some accountability partners, which is great. And my team was awesome. But I think the biggest thing is that you just have structure, right? And putting that structure in place really helped me. I think the other thing for a lot of people is, where do I start? I think I have this really good idea. People have said I should do a TED Talk, or maybe I want to kick off my business. And what I didn't understand when I very first signed up was that the amount of work that your team does to vet and post, I'll just say 100 TED Talks that are either ongoing or coming up over the next year, and then walk you through what they call app intensive. So how to apply for those, right? So I'm going to apply for a TED Talk, and it's like anything, there's some tricks and some nuances. And I think like anything, the more you do it, the better you get. But having someone to ask questions, because when I was doing it initially, I was just trying to search stuff on the internet. I didn't necessarily have people to ask. I mean, I was using ChatGPT and Googling probably what most people do, and just being able to talk to people who've gone through the process, who've given a TED Talk, or others who are in the same place that they've signed up and they're either going to give one or they're doing the application process. It's just very reinforcing, and it gives you confidence. Having people support you is really, really wonderful. And I think the only other thing I would just recommend is that I've had so many people come up to me and just say, "Hey, we know you kind of talked about doing a TED Talk," and they're like, "We're just stunned, like that you not only you did it, and they're like, how did you do it, and like, what was that process like?" And I just tell them about Thought Leader and all the things I learned, and I would just say, also when you're doing your TED Talk, and it's not that other people or other processes aren't good, but I think you see you see things stand out that the thought leader team emphasizes, especially around how people start their talk and how they end their talk. And I mean, certainly the talks themselves. I think you can certainly tell. I gave a talk, and the person who gave the talk after me, she was an FBI agent who was the first responder at Sandy Hook Elementary. So I just and had to write the FBI response guide to mass shootings, right? So kind of crazy, this crazy story. And she had 20 years of experience. And when her and I talked a lot, and since we were kind of presenting close to each other, and she just talked about all the struggles that she had. And I told her, hey, well, I had this company I worked with, and she's like, man, I wish I would have done something like that. And she said, she had written 4 books, and just the challenges and even getting on stage and how nervous she was because she hadn't had a chance to practice it except for maybe her husband and a couple friends. I mean, I've said it a couple times, but just that fact that you get a chance to practice, there's a structured program, and you get feedback from not just your team, but from the whole community. And I will just say, everybody's just been wonderful from the minute I signed up.